sitting here happily waiting for a good dinner and hopefully get pissed. I want to say hello to all my good friends, and most of the faces are, or I hope so, or I think so. So what I want to do is give you a little sample of a Tyrolean yodeler that comes from my place that I originally came from, which is Finneran. Here we go. If this doesn't work, I call it a practice run.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can understand my English. It's a bit funny, but anyhow, I'm here, and I'm very surprised to see so many old faces. It is actually a pleasure to be here. It makes me very, very happy. But the main thing, I believe, a lot of people didn't know Kurt Lance in a friendly way. Well, I consider myself a very good friend of the late person. I met him in 1952 when I was at the chalet at Charlotte Pass with Shasha and Tony Spooner. And we used to go out quite often skiing on drift up a Siemens Hut. And we used to get a lot of snow. And we had a few poles there, and Tony and I, we set a slalom with it. And all in a sudden, a vehicle, a ute, what you call a ute, turned up with an Alsatian dog in the back. That's what's Kurt Lance. And he came over to me and he asked me, he said, who's these people here, including yourself? I said, well, we are from the chalet, the ski instructor there. But we come up and train every day if we can in the summer. And they say, in the summer? I said, yeah, we ski right through it. In the 50s, we used to have so much snow. But anyhow, come back to Kurt. Come back to Kurt. Kurt, he said to me, he said, do you mind if I have a run with you? I said, pleasure. So I asked Tony Spooner. Tony was rather funny sometimes. And I asked Tony Spooner, do you mind if we come in and have a few turns? And we become very good friends of that. But the friendship, it started when I was running a ski shop. F.J. Palmer, if some people remember, he used to have a store on the corner of Pekin Park. And we started a new ski shop. It didn't last long because he decided to buy the food store in Neutral Bay. And from clothing and tobacco and shoes into salami and meat, it didn't work. Didn't work too well. Consequently, Palmer, F.J. Palmer, he sent me back to Italy to go and buy the equipment and bypass some of the suppliers. It was a bit of a problem there with the old one, but somehow we come to an arrangement that we didn't like to interfere and interrupt in the business. And Kurt, he decided to sell the garage. He used to have a Katoomba garage, and join his mum and dad manufacturing clothing, shirts and things like that. And I actually, that's when I started ski patrol. And I said, Kurt, I said, would you mind to make me some parka, some jacket? Red one with a white cross. And that's where a lot of people, they used to come in, they thought we Swiss. And I said, just a minute, you know, I said, first of all, I haven't got an accent. I got the spaghetti accent. And, but I said, we're quite a friendly company, a retailer, wholesaler. And Kurt, he said to me, he said, Tommy, see, I need some good patterns. I said, no problem. So when I went back to see Mum and Dad in Italy, I went to the factory, Caberlotto. Giovanni Caberlotto was the cable man, and the Lotto was the tennis side. A very wealthy family. They come from the Tyrol. And I went to see the cutter, because Kurt particularly wanted a pattern for the pants, a lady. So I went to see the cutter. He said, no problem. Hey, how would you like it? Wider, tighter? I said, that's not up to me. It's up to the gentleman. And he said, I'll cut you the patterns. So Kurt sat down on that, and he said, now I've got to get good material, because what's competing against Austrian manufacturers, Italian manufacturers.
Hold the mic closer.
I'm sorry. Put a bit of Vegemite, I think. I'm trying to lick it. Anyway, we got the patent. Kurt made his pants. He bought the best material. And I must say, I was talking to Kurt almost every day, because F.J. Palmer, we had a store in Pitton Park in the corner there, and we had one in Goulburn, and we had the big one in Melbourne, next to Maya. And I used to buy all I used to buy for all the store. And anyhow, come back to Kurt eventually. He come up skiing up here. And he wouldn't believe it, what's happened. I picked him up. He had a broken leg. I offered him to take him to Sydney. The doctor gave me some little tube of morphine. He said, you don't have to take his pants off. He said, just put it right through it. I said, that's a bit hard, but anyway. On the way down, I had to pull up only once in Goulburn. And that one where one of their patroller, he pulled up Dr. Peter Duval. He pulled up to go to toilets or whatever. And the three daughters are in the car. Anyhow, he jumped in the car and took off. He forgot about the daughters. So the police chased the motorbike, eventually pulled up. He said, where's your three daughters? We said, oh, jeez, I left them behind in the garage. So Kurt was a funny guy. He one moment serious, straight to business, or otherwise just enjoy himself. And the only thing, as I said, about Kurt is that the best man I ever met here. He had a lot in common with me when you're talking. See, during the war I was a partisan. I fought against my people, I fought against German, and he was coming up from south with the British. So he was fighting at the same time that I was being chased. And once again, the friendship between the two of us, it became quite strong. And I was so sorry to lose him. He was a very, very good friend. I met a lot of very good people in Australia. Some funny one. They used to call you funny name. They were very gentle to say, what country you come from? And I said, Italy. Oh, he turned back, the guy, he looked another chap next to him. Another Dagobah. I said, I beg your pardon? I said, what's Dago? He said, Bastard, I'm afraid to disappoint you. I know my old man very well. Do you know yours? And he said straight away, you want to fight? The guy was about twice my height. And I said, why not? I'm only a little one, but I can give you a bite. And he said, where would you like to have it? I said, inside the bar or way outside? On the footpath. So he went there first, in the footpath, and I followed. And there he is with a bottle of beer. He said, Mike, have a drink. I said, well, how about the fight? He said, forget it. Go in and out. We fight all the time. That's up in Kalgoorlie, and funny place. That's where I finish up to go. When I've come as a migrant in 1952, in Perth, I met two guys in the bar. And one of the guys, he said to me, he said, excuse me, he said, where do you come from? I said, Italy. Oh, you're familiar with the Australians? I said, no, I just landed this morning. And now you offer me a drink. I said, okay, we'll have a drink. The girl behind the bar, she said, yes, love. And I said, gee, they're friendly. I just landed, they called me love. I said, this will do me. So anyway, eventually we settled in and so forth. But I finished up in the gold mine. And the two guys that I drink in the bar, they say, Tommy said, look, don't stay in Perth. The basic wage is minimum. Go up to Kalgoorlie in the gold mine. I said, you're kidding. I said, I never worked in my life before. Tell them you work in the mine in Italy. So I get up to Kalgoorlie. I go to the Perseverance mine. And they told me, when you see a guy with a white helmet, that's a supervisor. I said, I don't care. I said, can I speak to him? And he said, yes, what can I do for you? I said, I need a job. I said, I just arrived. He said, are you a miner? And the guy told me to say yes. So I had to tell him a lie. I said, oh yeah, I work in the gold mine in Italy. And he looked at me and said, in Italy? I said, you got a gold mine? I said, well, close to a gold mine. I think it's zinc. I said, you're going to metal? I said, look, forget it. I apologized. They told me to say that I worked before. He said, okay, I'll see you in the morning. So he took me to the shaft and took me there to the last level, 32 level on the Goulia mine. And when I got there, and he presented me with a big hammer. I've never seen one as big as that. And he said, you see that rock when they come in with a trolley and dump it, whatever rock doesn't go through the hole, you have to break it with a hammer. I said, you've got to be kidding. There's a better way than... I said, how? I said, give me a couple of sticks of gelignite and I'll show you where. And the guy took me over. He took me over to the face where they finished drilling, and he said, show me what you can do. So I said, give us a case, a gelignite. And I said, I'll show you what I'll do. So I started to pump the things in it, connecting the fuse. Oh, he said, you do know what to do. I said, yes. As a matter of fact, I put a bit extra to make sure that the rock are not big. they disintegrated with the explosion. So I pushed so much in it that we all become deaf there. It's just a huge repair. But anyhow, and that's when I discovered shallow pass. Am I taking too long?
To talk a little bit more about Kurt.
Tommy, great to see you, mate. Yeah, Kurt and Tommy, two of the icons. My memory of Kurt was that I was compelled to wear, along with the issued uniform of a knitted jumper and a beanie, was a merit jacket. Now, if you made a shower curtain out of a merit jacket, all the water would end up outside the shower. It wouldn't stay off your body. Anyway, that was, I remember Kurt from. But more to the fact with Kurt, he was very instrumental in having a lot of our race courses that we now race on, i.e. World Cup, that we utilised during '89, during the World Cup and that. He had contacts in the FIS, Federation International Ski, and he had the homologation process occur for us people in Australia, which was pretty awesome in the day, because when we were running World Cup, I said to Kurt, I said, this is pretty awesome that Australia, we're running a World Cup event. And he said, how do you see it? I said, well, it'd be a bit like the Austrians trying to run a surf competition. Pretty impossible, but under Wayne Kirkpatrick's tutelage and that, we pulled it off. But it wasn't. But Kurt was instrumental during that period in getting it over the board, getting all the big names here, and meeting all the requirements. So that's how I remember Kurt. Yeah, and I'll leave it on that note.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Wayne Kirkpatrick, who I think has a telegram from Roland Warner.
I do.
You do?
I do. I stay in touch with Rolly, and I mentioned this evening was on, and he says, I send you some words. So here they are. And I'll just read it verbatim. Kurt did a wonderful job as TRC president, Thredbo Ski Racing Club. Our coaches for TSRC, Lugi Brunner and Tom Reiter, were full of praise. And of course, Kurt pushed FIS and KT to stage a World Cup in Thredbo, an event he had dreamed of for many years. It eventually happened in 1989, and Kurt was chief of race. I was chief of course, and we had to bring in international technical delegates from Europe. 3 weeks before the races, Hans Schweingruber from FIS in Zurich arrived to find out everything is okay. Bad luck, there was no snow. And Hans told me every night he has to cancel the race. Lucky enough, he was a wine drinker. And we introduced him to Penfolds Bin 389. The great Cabernet Shiraz for $100 a bottle. And he loved it. He told me during the day, every day, he had to call FIS in Zurich and cancel the races. I promised him there was snow on the way, but nothing came. So, we had 2 bottles a night. After another few days, he said he would call Zurich tonight and cancel the race. That's it. Kurt was beside himself. So I went to the Alpine Hotel reception and told them not to connect Hans with Zurich. Finally, we ended up with 3 bottles a night of Bin 389, and the phone still didn't work. Kurt was very happy. It was too late anyway to hold the teams back. They were on their way with the help of their good friend Peter Stainlay, the boss of Qantas. Everything went well. Snowmaking was working, the training courses were okay, teams and Hans were happy. So Kurt was happy. We had 1.5 tonnes of salt hidden on the mountain just in case. The day before the race, as many of you who were present at the time would remember, with the opening ceremony, the parade, etc., it was raining. But the forecast for the night was cold and clear. At 5 p.m. I slid the course through the gates with members of TSRC, and it was very soft. We finished the job as Malcolm Milne, the forerunner for tomorrow, raced through the gates. We were very worried. That night was perfect, well, almost. It snowed heavily and was then clear and freezing. The next morning at 4:30, I'd met the army officer, Captain Rob Josky, and his Aussie troops. They were brought to Thredbo for a military training camp, and I jokingly told him nothing to do. Everything is fine. He was upset. His troops will kill him, waking up at 2 a.m, driving to Thredbo and no job. So I asked him to shovel the snow off the course, boot stamp the course, and build steps alongside the race course for spectators, and it made them very happy. Easy. My good friend Franz Klammer, who was here of course, said it's a very good hill. At the end of the races, Hans Schweingruber, the FIS technical director, said, quote, "This was the best men's Alpine World Cup ever." Kurt was happy, his dream had arrived.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you very much. Now, Tommy, we'll just get you up here. Now, remember, Tommy is 98 years young. 98 years young. That's fantastic. So what we're doing, because Kurt Lance's wife and other family couldn't be here tonight, Tommy is actually going to accept the award on behalf of the Kurt Lance family. Now, I'd like to just get Errol up with the award, and Stuart Diver, please.
Hey. Tommy, fantastic speech. We could have listened all night, I think, and just to those wonderful stories. It's all about history. That's what I love. And when we look around, and you spoke about the great snow in the 50s, when people are saying it's a little marginal this season, I tell them to look at the history of snowfalls in the mountains. And we've had marginal seasons before, as you would know, and we've had great seasons before. We've just been unfortunate to have a couple of marginal seasons in a row. But I'm hopeful, looking at history and the snow charts, that the snow will come again, and Thredbo will be able to enjoy a fantastic season, as we've all had many throughout the years. It's really important, I think, tonight to share in this room the passion that people have. Anyone who's lived in the mountains knows that we go through many highs and many lows as you enjoy, the wonderful environment that we all share together. But what makes it really important is the passion of those people, their resilience to get through it, and the drive that it takes to get things like the 1989 World Cup here up. I think that Kurt Lance is a great person to receive this award, obviously contributed hugely to Thredbo and to the fabric of what went down on here. And I think that looking back, we can all learn through people like yourself, Tommy, that there are different ways of getting through hard times and bad seasons. But the best way really is to band together, to join together as a community, and to try and work and be resilient and positive together, because we know that the good times will come again. So on behalf of the Thredbo Alpine Museum, this is not the actual award because someone left it at home. Good enough. I padded that out in just enough time. So, on behalf of Kurt Lance, thank you for accepting that award. Thanks.
Thank you, Stuart, and thank you, Tommy.
Hi, I'm Kate McLaughlin, chef de mission of the 2024 Australian Paralympic team, and I'm here in Paris for the Paralympic Games. But I know that I would love to be with you tonight, Ron Finneran, to celebrate the great man, the person we call the godfather of Paralympic winter sport in Australia. I know you participated in the 1976 Paralympic Games in Sweden. You were the flag bearer for Australia, the very first Paralympic Winter Games flag bearer for Australia. You have given so much to this sport. You started Disabled Winter Sport Australia, and I know from the time you started that amazing organisation, you have given so much to our Winter Paralympic team over so many years. You are regarded as one of our greatest Paralympians ever. Our athletes constantly refer to you as someone that they respect, they admire. You've inspired them to be the athletes they are today. Personally, Ron, I have a strong connection with Thredbo, and my dad was a ski patroller at Thredbo for many years, and he always used to talk about you when I was young. He remembers you around the village and remembers what you did, not only for Thredbo, but for Paralympic sport and Alpine sport in general. So I hope you have an amazing day. I have to tell you that in the Paralympic Village in Paris, there's actually a level within our allotment named after you. So you are very much respected within not only the Winter Paralympic movement, but also our Summer Games too. So have an amazing night. I'm really sorry I can't be there. I love our chats once every month when you give me a call to see what's happening and get the gossip from the Paralympic world. Have a great night, and thank you so much for everything. We think the world of you, and we love you very much. Thanks, Ron.
Ron Finneran, what an absolute superstar legend of our community, an incredible trailblazer for winter sport. 76, one of the first, well, the first, and absolutely paved the way for every single other Winter Paralympian to follow. Not just for the winter team though, I've never met a fiercer advocate for parasport. He is someone you do not want to mess with, and we are so insanely fortunate to have had the likes of a Ron Finneran, not just in our mob and our community, but in our total world. I'm incredibly blessed to have met this superstar. We're all so very grateful for every single little thing you've ever done. We love you heaps, Ron.
After watching the videos from Paris, I bet you can all hardly wait to hear what I have to say. So Ron, brace yourself, mate, because I've written something down. You know. So normally I do, you know, what, you know, with the walk around the microphone and just say thanks, Mike, and pray that everything goes well. But good evening, all. Probably a lot of you don't know who I am. I'm a bit of a time capsule as far as Thredbo goes, because I did 8 years in the ski school under Leonard and Arnold, and then I had to go at the end of the 81 season, and that's what I mean by time capsule, because I can remember vividly that period beforehand. And the reason I qualified to honour Ronald James Finneran, OAM, Sir Ron, is that in Thredbo terms, I'm one of the last men standing from that period of life. There's no way I'm going to get to, you know, my walk friends esteemed 98 years. But pardon my language, I'm not very good with the correct language. Tonight I actually wanted to seek out the good doctor who received the award last year, I think, because out of all the Thredbo names, he's the only one I haven't met. So I wanted to... Oh, good! And the reason I met all the early ones, because you don't know you're going to be a pioneer, do you, until 50 years later. Anyway, the reason I met everybody, because we used to stay with the Rasco family, of course, and everybody would come and go out and punch an hello, so that's how I'd met them all. And look, before I start on Ron, and this is very relevant, the Thredbo village has had a very, very important role in the sort of history of skiing in Australia. Not simply because it was you know, the premier resort of the time, hopefully still is, indisputably, as far as I'm concerned. But it taught Australia how to ski. And I'm still vouch for that, because we didn't know how to ski. We had to wait for all the Austrians to come along and show us how to do it. And that happened in basically the 60s and the 70s. And I came here in 1964 and they taught me how to ski. Carl Burkholt was my first instructor, taught me how to ski, and ended up teaching under Leonhard. And so I was here at that time when Thredbo was the inspiration, if you like, for the establishment of an Australian ski instructor certification system. That had its beginnings here. And it's no coincidence that that sort of went further and led to the establishment of Australian Disabled Skiers Federation. That happened in that time. And the reason it was able to happen was because this community fostered that environment. This community, everybody knew everybody. You had a ski school, when I started there, about 35. And everybody knew, they were all personalities. And that personality thing was promoted. And everybody loved the ski school. And if you want to learn how to ski, you went to the ski school. And if, as a ski instructor, if your class didn't come back, you got the sack. Because they're all on holiday, and if you made them unhappy, well, you didn't deserve to be here. So you tended to employ really good skiers who were entertainers as well. So if you look at that Faces of Thredbo list, it's been mentioned before, I think Errol said it, they're all larger than life personalities. And this little village has always been rife with larger than life personalities. I won't digress. Ron Finneran is in the top percentile on that score. Ron's journey that led him, you know, with his accolades, including admission to the Australian Sporting Hall of Fame, that started here. And it's no coincidence. And we're happy that Ron came here so it could begin. But Ron came here in the 70s. You know, you older guys than me, you never left. I left in 82, so I can remember vividly how it was. And Thredbo in the 70s. Just imagine, 50 years ago, Thredbo Alpine village. It was internationally known and indisputably Australia's premier resort. Onesies and stretch pants were the height of fashion, thanks to Michelle and Sasha. There was no snowmaking, no quad chairs, no Friday flat, no cruiser, no gun barrel, no snow guns chair even, no carols, sponners, no trees on the lower slopes, as you've seen in the black and white pictures. No buses. No development on that side of the creek, the river. Nothing at all. No bank cards, no computers, mobile phones, cash economy. That was good, And the cash came in and out in a Valiant station wagon, a Hemi Valiant station wagon, which was also the ambulance and the fire brigade. That changed sort of around about 75. But that's basically how it was. Beginners hired skis from fleets in the Valley Terminal and got on the Merritt's chair, where my HD panel van was parked, right at the bottom. Or if there was enough snow, they went up the Kragenback chair to the basin, and we'd search for a patch of snow. I remember with Shenak we took these beginners and were carrying the skis. We went right across to a patch of snow on the other side of the base of T-bar. Started teaching them, and I looked at Kurt and he looked at me and he said, "Nothing to write home about." Look, it was really, we didn't know it at the time, but when you compare it to what you've got now, and Stuart spelled it out, you know, you take the good and the bad. Look, I'm just happy to be here. I don't care if it's snow or not. I love it here. Love the man. Anyway, so you got this scene there. It was really hard to get around. Now imagine that you've got spina bifida, right? And you need to support your skeleton with all sorts of gizmos, wing nuts and calipers and all that sort of carry on, right? And you've decided to work in the snowfields. This is 50 years ago. That takes a certain type, the one and only, and enter Finsko. Finsko comes to Thredbo, can work in the snowfield. Ron's a sportsman, despite the affliction of polio. He wanted to ski. To feel the wind in his hair, he's spoken about that. And he wanted to share that with others. Once he had experienced that, he wanted to share it. And by sheer force of personality, he went about his business, artfully undermining the obstacles, which were considerable, attracting all manner of willing assistance from us, the us of the 70s, from every sector of the community workforce, adapting equipment to suit Howard so that he could vertically ski without anybody pushing him, holding him up or whatever. Totally independent. So difficulty walk, get around, but he could ski. And of course, you have to work out how to ride the lifts and things like that, because if you've got this rigid outfit to go skiing, well, you've got to sit on this chairlift that wasn't a detachable chairlift. You know, it came, it picked you up. So he had to get the lifties on side, people like Errol. And imagine how, you had to be a charmer to get people like Errol. In the end, he ends up running the NASTAR program, so National Standard Race handicap thing for all the clients to go into, and ski school, and learning how to show off on skis. And Ron could ski, unless it was icy, and then it was a bundle of laughs. And this situation that Ron fostered in Thredbo with our willing assistance was in stark contrast to societal attitudes of that time. Activities such as winter sport were inaccessible to disabled people. The language of the day still reflected the systemic attitude that disabled people were a burden. And the unique mix of Ron's abilities, his dream to ski and have a career in the mountains, and Thredbo's diverse community produced a snowball effect, pun intended. And beginning with the establishment of the Australian Disabled Skiers Federation in the lounge bar behind the piano in 1978, which we all thought was, pretty neat at the time, little did we know. Because that organisation spread, grassroots organisation spread to all resorts, matched in with similar efforts overseas that we'd heard about. And Ron had gone and seen one in Sweden. Bruce Abel had worked in one in Canada. There was no internet. The only way you found out about these things was people came and told you, or you went and found out, or someone wrote an aerogram. I mean, before I came to teach, my idea of mountains were Elaine Mitchell's Australia's Alps and various black and white photos of the Himalayas, But it was a totally different time. So this development of this Ron we've got the Disabled Skiers Federation. That spread. It also involved, over the time, the promotion of accessibility for people in all recreational pursuits, right, didn't it? We had all sorts of, we used to go and get some funding to do all sorts of projects, and it just promoted accessibility for all. Ron didn't care whether you're able-bodied or disabled. In fact, sort of coined a phrase for ableism, if you like. You know, forget disability. There's this problem we have with ableism. So Ron's there, wanting to ski, wanting to involve everybody else, wanting to promote it, and it morphed into winter Paralympics, and it morphed into summer. And all these things had Ron's large imprint. It's a wonderful and remarkable story. But along the way, it was like this, as in all things. And it wasn't without considerable sacrifice, and this is the bit that people don't hear about and don't realise, but I was very much privileged to be party to it. And much of it under sufferance, for the benefit of others. Ron's no politician. I'm proud of it. And doesn't pretend to be. He's a doer. He shoots first, uses the foot with the caliper in the door technique, and doesn't accept no for an answer. Someone mentioned this before, but I reckon there were times he'd make a two of the hum look like Liberace, you know, if you wanted something done. And these days, that's not the way. You don't do that way. You wouldn't get away with it. It wouldn't be acceptable. But in these days, there are laws, procedures, protocols, advocacy organisations, technology, and attitudes are more enlightened, at least in some quarters. But it was hard yakka. It was a hard fight. So Ron is a great pioneering advocate for disabled people, because being disabled himself, he just wanted to make things better. He was forever struggling against this, what I call ableism, systemic ableism. I like that word. Inaccessibility, didn't matter where it was, getting into ski lodges, transport, workspaces, housing, employment, education. It was systemic. People didn't care about people who had mobility issues. Ron's one of the most ablest people I've ever met, but he had trouble getting around. Anyway, Ron used sport, skiing, as his instrument for reform. And the epitome of sport for people with disabilities is the Paralympics. And the Paralympics celebrate and display the amazing achievements and heroism of disabled people. Like Michael, for instance. Michael's outstanding example. BF, that is before Ron, Australia had no representation in the Winter Paris. Now, these people on the video, lovely people, talk about Ron being the first Paralympic. He was, but he was illegal. Because he just happened to be there when it happened, and he just got a flag and put in there, and he said, "I'm Australia," and they accepted him because it was Ron, and it was a mountain community. I had to fight for 30 years to get that ratified. And now these people think it's true. And it is true because it's now in the statutes. So, but that was the beginning of it. AF, that is after Ron, Australian winter teams have won medals in every Games since Albertville, France, 1992, when the magnificent Michael Milton won a fantastic gold in the slalom. Now the course was set by Dino, who's sitting here in the striped shirt, the second run. He said he set that course. He can still remember where he put the flags. And Spitz, Alexander Spitz, world champion, he straddles the last gate. And this fella, Alexander Spitz, he came up to Mildred. I don't know what he said to Mildred at the end, but I met him in 2010, and he was just so delighted that you'd won the gold medal, and he was the world champion. And if he hadn't straddled that gate, I don't know whether he would have won or not, but Michael skied it better than he did. And this fellow was a champion star, he acknowledged it. So look, I digress. And I could digress all night, tell more stories than the papers stick out. But I can talk cliches till the cows come. Look, I reckon that without Ron's courage, Sydney 2000, the celebrated games that we all think of affectionately as being in the past, they would not have included the Paralympics. The Premier of the day, I won't even mention his name, did not want the Paralympics. And Ron forced the issue at great personal cost. Sydney 2000 is recognised as the games which kick-started the modern movement. And Ron's examples paved the way for a new breed of personalities within the Paralympic movement, such as you saw in the video. And people you see on TV like Dylan Alcott, or Riley Batt, Kurt Fernley. I reckon those guys know how lucky they are. It's been a long road, carrying the heavy burden of responsibility, the physical effort, financial pressure, hard times. And with Ron, of course, you get two for the price of one. You got Lisa Finneran, and she couldn't come tonight. And someone said behind every mountain there's another mountain. So there's a mountain missing tonight. And I'm really, really, really appreciative and grateful for what she's done for us and for disability sport. Sorry. So Karina, I want you to make sure that you spell that out to your beloved mum. Because, as I say, you got two for the price of one. If she was here, she'd get equal billing at this stage too. So, you know, there's counsel, strength, love and support, all those words are written here. And through all that, through everything, they've raised a family, operated small businesses to try and make things happen, meet expenses. They've become community stalwarts in the region, and they've got a wide network of friends. When I say wide, I mean there's people overseas who'd love to be here tonight. I haven't finished, I'm sorry. So Ron, like an old snow gun on North Ramshead, you've kept fighting. Goodness knows you've faced more than your fair share of battles. So all the accolades do something, I guess, and this is another forum, but this is a really important accolade. This comes from your own people. But nevertheless, you must wonder sometimes along the way if it was worth it. Well, I'm telling you, as far as I'm concerned, it's fantastic. But you've made a real and lasting difference in the mountains and beyond. You have made mountains more accessible to all. Life is better because of that. And through it all, your genuine affection and love for people shines through. Tonight it shines through. You love meeting people and they love meeting you. And Thredbo loves you too, and is very proud to be an important part of your story. And I'm really privileged to have shared a lot of it with you. Here's looking at you, Ron.
How do I work this?
Keep it close to your mouth.
Tommy, how do I work this?
Close to your mouth.
Loaded. It's obviously, incumbent upon me for a response of the magnitude that I've heard from our guest speakers, not only Tommy but Nick, and it really is appreciated. It would be lovely to be able to spend time recreating all the rubbish that you guys gave me throughout the years. I hope someday to be able to get back to you one and all. But DWA, Disabled Winter Sport Australia, started in this village. I just recount how I came down initially in the mid-70s with friends, and they learned how to ski at the ski school, and they said, listen, you can't do that, sit on a rock and watch us do it. Well, I did it for that day. The following day I went to Fleets and ordered boots and skis with one boot the size of a giant on one leg and a normal on the other. I went up to ski school. They couldn't help me, naturally enough. So I sat on a rock up there and put these skis on with the ski poles, and believe it or not, I skied for about 10 metres before I fell over. As a result of that, I went back, got up, did it less and less and less and less. Yeah, anybody hearing me what I've got to say? Yeah. Less and less and less and less. And in frustration, I was virtually in tears. And then this Italian wog turned up in the basin that year, and that was the start of recognition through him and the Austrian ski instructors of outriggers, which are skis with normal skis with little 14-inch long skis attached to them. From them came the development of what you now know in this country as a whole and internationally as one of the most dynamic sports there is. Simply because if ever I was to leave this situation with these people tonight, it's the actual feeling of wind going through my hair that did the job for me, and it still does to this very day. We can go through all the real heavies like Stewart and all the X's around here, like Kirky and Co, Kimmy Clifford and whatever. It's good to see Kim there. But it was on the ground with the ski school or this village that said, right, Ron, we see you doing what you do, we'll support it. So they started out this commitment towards bettering my ability to ski. It wasn't all that, tell me to shut up if I'm, it wasn't that ability to ski. It was my daughter Karina. Ability to ski, and it was the encouragement that I went back up to the basin and I started to get to know Errol and Wayne Stinson and a few of the other guys. And after 5 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon, you would see this guy skiing around the basin with very short skis and doing pirouettes. And I said, I've come here to a ski area, I'm not to a bunch of puppies like Randy Wheeman. Why should I suffer this humiliation and do a little twirl? The Graham Morris. I'm still confused when I think about it. But from that, we, the ski school directors in those Lance, and particularly Dolly, Conrad, hard man that he was, but he actually got me off the mountain and actually skiing. But it was here, from that started a movement within the ski school here, and out of that came ski instructors that committed themselves so long and for so many years that it's quite incredible. And I get them to stand up to be acknowledged. Once is Motormouth here, Nick Dean. He could please stand up. Graham Morris. I'm sure I've got others here. Please stand up for you other ski school guys. Eddie Gazawoski. Eddie, I can't ski. So these guys actually launched skiing not only in Thredbo but onto Perisher and the Victorian resorts and ultimately the world. And what can I say, guys, is thank you very much. If I miss anyone or everyone, please don't hesitate to knock me off the shelf here, please. Okay, that would be it for me. I look forward to an incredible future for the sport in this village. I'd like the board of directors. I don't know whether that board of directors is still around. Oh, there he is. The head of the board of directors to get into access in the village, in the mountains. Good. Ooh, got out of that. The mountain's good, but there's still a lot of work to be done in the village here, and I would like to consider that those involved would have that as something to discuss in the future.
Thank you, Ron. That was fantastic and much appreciated. Thank you. Okay.
Be careful of the other leg, Michael.
Are you nervous? You should be. So, I first met Ron in the late 1970s when he presented me with a Snoopy medal at NASTAR, which is what you got if you weren't good enough for bronze. So to say I've held a long-term grudge against him would be a mistake. Well done to the lifting team that got him on stage. I've towed him to the summit of Mount Kosciuszko, so I have some idea of what that might be like. And I think Nick omitted the larrikin side of his personality. I've spoken to so many people this winter who've told me that you were so good at having a go at people, and that they would like me to serve some revenge. I'm not sure that, unfortunately, the nickname that I tried to give Ron in the 1990s never really stuck. But the older you get, the more it seems appropriate to me. I used to call Ron Yoda. As a Star Wars fan, I got it. I thought it was a term of immense respect. But as somebody who'd never watched Star Wars, he thought I was having a go at him. There's lots of similarities between Ron and Yoda. He's old, wise, short, a teacher and a mentor. Personally, I wish I'd been a little bit smarter and more mature and had listened to so many of Ron's wise words throughout my youth. It was an honour to share many of my athletic successes with Ron there and to share a passion for skiing and Paralympic sport. So I'd just like to say thanks for sharing your wise words with me and helping to provide me with so many opportunities.
Thank you, Michael.
So good evening, everyone. This one's going to be sort of short and sweet, pretty much. Tonight I just wanted to speak about the NASTAR years. I first met Ron and Lisa in 1979, and they were extremely warm and welcoming. In 1980, I was invited by Kim Clifford to join the NASTAR race crew, for which I am eternally grateful, Kim. Some of the best years of my life. The crew at that time consisted of Finsco as manager, Gary Cordova, the very genial American, Eddie Jabba Jezelowski, that funny Polish kid who lived in a cupboard at Witter House, Steve Clifford, gun racer, and myself. On occasions, the work experienced kid Wayne Kirkpatrick would join us. The whole operation was overseen by ski school director Arnold Conrad, who ensured that standards were set and lived up to. The concept of national standard recreational ski racing, imported from the US, allowed skiers of all age groups to compare their performance against others using a handicap system. There were medal presentations after every race, Snoopy's, and big prizes on offer at the end of the season, serious trips overseas. It proved extremely popular with skiers, and we were a busy little team. As an extension of this, Arnold organised a series of pro-am races over jumps, which provided exhilarating competitive ski racing and a great spectacle. So the schedule was pretty busy, but Ron, with years of experience doing this, had it under control. The work was hard at times, but with Finsco as our leader, we were all invested in turning out a faultless, high-quality experience for our customers. What I recall most is the ever-present good-natured banter shared by the team. In the years I worked with Ron, I never heard a cross word from him. There may have been occasional tears of exasperation from him with some of our antics, but Finsco was always calm and in control. Like all workplaces, some things balance out other things. On occasion, Finsco would be issuing commands over the loudspeaker from the comfort of his warm, cosy timing hut, while the rest of us struggled outside in the 40-knot gale. Later at the presentations in the Keller, he would dispense a couple of extra beer tickets to the crew. And speaking of beer tickets, I don't think he ever knew that we discovered where he kept them. And yes, the crew always reported for work on time, irrespective of what state we may have been in. We were never in any doubt about Noldy's views on punctuality. So from the winter of 1980, I came to know and like Ron and respect him for his integrity, loyalty and friendship. It came as no surprise that he would go on to make incredible inroads in the field of disabled skiing, bringing a host of influential decision makers with him to achieve his goals. So without further ado, I would like to propose a toast to Ron. To Ron.
I might get a bit emotional now because someone just said, how can a bloke from the country wear a pink shirt and make any sense? I started to write this when we sat down, Ron. First thing about Kurt Lance and Katie Perrin, or Katie McLaughlin as we know her. There's been a lot of emails over to Katie to try and get this little video up for Ron. And Katie's dad died about 5 weeks ago. So things have been tough for her, and tough for everyone actually, but we got it through. I did come to Finsco's farewell 15 years ago, and I thought it'd be the end of the little bastard, but he's back. It was meant to be a roast, and we're meant to roast him tonight, but he's too old, too tough to roast. He's a boiler. Nick earlier spoke of a few of the old instructors. Kurt and he is to this year. I don't know if you remember Kurt and that, but they're both in heaven now. Michael Milton gave a great talk, but you don't know how good Michael was. You know, Michael, I went to the Paralympics in Sydney and I was standing in the queue to get in there. And Michael was beside me, and I had my dad in a wheelchair. And I said to Michael, why aren't you doing something here? And he said, oh, I've got to do something later. And so Michael was the bloke that passed the torch on to Louise Savage. Might have to do something later. And of course, Ron did come and visit me in the bush once. And he said he's bringing, well, Lisa and Ron. He said, I'm bringing my father-in-law, and he's a Catholic priest. I thought, oh shit. No red wine, no beer, just a little bit of communion, nice chit-chat. He drank Ron and I under the table. He and my wife were up, Ron and I and Lisa were in bed. So, anyway, look, Ron, you know, I've worked with you, I've worked for you, we've done everything with Ron. There's no little better critter that ever came to this village. And, I'd just like everyone to say g'day, Ron. You know, I'm just so proud of this little fella. That's it.
Thank you.
Well, obviously I don't have the script. So I used to live up in Bowdon, and Ronnie lived up the hill, and Ronnie and myself would have a few drinks, and I carped Ronnie up the hill with sashes. And some nights we had a bit of fun, especially when it was icy. But there was one night, and we're at Rudy's, which is now the Denman, and we had a big night, and Ron left his, do I tell him? No. And Ron left his watch on the table, and we went down to the cellar, and on the way down to the cellar, as we all know, there's a handrail, so I just get Ron. I put him on the rail, balancing as much as I could, and let him go. What happened, Ron?
I survived.
I know. Well, I survived with me. And then his watch, he said, Gary, I left my watch up at Rudy's. I said, oh, okay. I'll go up and get it. But I had the watch in my pocket. So I stood up there, top the stairs, came back down and said, sorry, Ron. The watch isn't there, mate. And for the next 3 days, he said, that watch, Gary, what happened to my watch? I said, oh, no idea, mate. 3 days later, I gave it back to him.
First of all, as a Victorian, it's an honour to be here in front of this snow community that needs to be envied. It's an amazing community, this one. Just from Hotham, no one knows where that place is, except for maybe Brad. to talk about how Ron, of course, Nick Dean, Graham Morris, Eddie, Michael Milton have been some of the biggest influences in my life, and it's an experience that I can't put down. I live it, I breathe it still. And it's about Ron's genius of putting a team together in Albertville '92. Take it back to a short story, I'll make it short. It was March, early March. Ron and Nick had organised hill space on the competition hill in Tenia. Something that was only reserved for us, so our team got to train slalom in the build-up to the competition, which always starts with your downhill, your Super G, your GS, and then eventually your slalom. So we had 3 days of slalom on the competition hill, all to ourselves. And I set a, what you call a 9 metre special with 4.5 metre closed gate combinations straight down the fall line for 3 days in a row. We had 2 days off to rest and recoup before the start of the downhill. And the storm came in, and it was like a storm we all wished we had here. It was 2 metres in 48 hours. So we had to reverse the calendar. So Nick, Dean, Ron and myself and Graham Morris went to the team captains meeting, and they asked who wanted to set one of the courses, and of course I wanted it. And they were laughing. It's this Aussie guy in his Cobra hat wanting to set a course at the Olympic or the Winter Games. So the race jury, the Swiss guy, I think he had his head down and he lifted a hand and they said, "Oh, Switzerland, first run." And I'm still there like this. And I had a couple of backers and they got behind me and gave me the opportunity to set the second slalom run. So Ron thought that was a great idea, and so did Nick. It was more Ron who bribed the grooming staff with, I think it was baguettes and salami and red wine or something like that, to pick us up at our hotel down the bottom of the hill at 5 AM in the morning. And so I get to the top of the hill first. And at the Winter Games, the technical events are always set side by side at sunrise, first and second run for the day. And first coach to the top of the course gets the line. So I had the line that we'd been training for 3 days, and I said exactly that. The Swiss coach turned up drunk from a big night before. I'm sure he was hungover, and he had to set his first course arrhythmical out to the woods, soft snow near the fence. So at the end of the first run, Michael finished, I think it was 5th or 6th. It was 4th or 5th. Something like that, or 3rd. No, that was Norton. Norton finished 4th or 5th. You finished 3rd. That's right, you finished 3rd in the first run. Then the boys came out after that and were clearly just under 2 seconds ahead of their field. And Alexander Spitz straddled the last gate. Michael ran it home for a resounding gold medal, and Michael Norton came up for a bronze. And so what I'm trying to say is Ron's genius put a bunch of us Aussies together for an amazing Aussie victory that was groundbreaking at the time. There wasn't a single foreigner on that team. We were all Australian. And we won the opening event, the opening category, the opening day, thanks to Michael's run. You did that, Ron. You put us all together. And I made in the 2 days when they were resting, I made a statement that if anyone won a medal, I'd tattoo it on the bottom. Well, they won a gold, a silver and 2 bronze, so I now have a short story. Thank you, Ron. You're the best.
I always get directions from Robin, but I never really worry about that. But I want to tell you all a short, funny story. In the old days, quite a few years ago, we had a golf club touring club, and Ronnie used to come as often as he could, and we arrived at, I forgot which hole it was, and his shot landed in the bunker. So he said, Heinz, I want to ask you for a favour. I need this shot. So he said, hold me here on this, on my jacket, because I need to have a full swing at it, and don't let go, okay? So he prepared himself for that shot, and I said, all right, when do you want me to let go? He said, not at all. So I said, okay, fine. So as he prepared to shoot his shot out of the bunker, he had a backspin. On a forward spin, I let go. And before the ball landed anywhere at all, he said, you bastard. And the only way I think he forgave me when we had some great beers down in the pub after this, but it was the laughter in our group didn't stop for half an hour. And the other story, Ron lived in Merimbula, and I had my boat down there, and he said, can I come and sail with you? I said, definitely. Hop on, and we are going to, it's a bit windy, but we are going to have a great sail. So he was in charge of the ship, and I was the captain. So we sailed from Merimbula down to Eden, and the wind was so strong we couldn't get the wind out of the sails. And I said, how are we going to handle that at the end of it? Anyway, we had the most beautiful sail, and he said, Heinz, that was my best sail in my life ever.
I met Finsco for the first time in 1979 when we came to live in Thredbo, and I have to say he was the first person I'd met who I would describe as different. I'd never met a person that walked like he did and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't quite know how to treat it, but I pretty quickly learned that he's just like us. He just walked differently. And I was impressed, Finsco, with the way you skied, first with the outriggers, and then ultimately with sit ski, etc., etc. And of course, he became the head of the NASTAR crew. And a few of whom are here tonight. Eddie and Chris. Anybody else? No? But Cordova, of course, and we'll hear from Cordova in a minute. But Roland has sent me another note. As I mentioned earlier, he was aware this evening was on in your honour, and he wanted to send a few words. So he says, the first time I met Finsco, I realised immediately what a funny guy he is. He told me his story and welcomed me as if he'd known me since ages. After a few weeks, I finally saw him skiing. I couldn't believe what I saw. He was better on skis than Rod at Stunning Dunning, Thurdle Noble, and Max Parker all together. The old bugger was skiing down High Moon like Ingemar Stenmark. He was also doing a great job in the NASTAR races, and he was always good fun. One year he had a deal with Osborne, who was then the general manager of the place, and the company for lessons for the disabled skier groups. By the split, I realised groups are not always the best option. There must be one-on-one private lessons. I looked deep into Finsco's eyes and told him to be quiet about this, because this was not the deal with Osborne and the company. I was happy to take this on my shoulders, and as Osborne came along toward the end of the season, he was clearly not very happy. I told him, it's not looking good in newspapers, David, if we stop now, and he should come around and watch great instructors doing a wonderful job with young disabled people. That was for you, Finsco, and he was very happy, and you were happy at the time. Finsco's had a go at everything. He's always been capable of learning to ski, golf. Heinzie mentioned golf. And in those early days of living here in the summer months, I used to play golf with Finsko and Gary Cordova. And we too, Heinzie, used to hold Finsko. He'd a ball into the bunker, and if it was on an uphill slope, you'd sort of hold him and say, "You ready, Finsko?" "Right." "Oh, I'm terribly sorry." And of course, yes, he'd fall down. But he always took it in great spirit. And he was a good golfer. And this is what Cordova has to say. Gary lives in California, and he sent me these words. He said, "A lot of good words can be said of my little amigo. How he gets great sponsors beyond my not-so-great intelligence. And if he went in the other direction, he could sell a US president the White House." Finsko has a great personality, and he reaches out to people. A short history of the two of us playing golf together with Wayne. Of course, I was the better player, but at times Finsko still beat me, and that still pisses me off. Wish I could be there tonight, but it just can't happen. Finsko, it's your big night. Really enjoy it, and if you want to say something really nice about me, I won't mind. Adios, amigo, Gaza Cordova. Heinzie mentioned sailing. I've got a bit of a sailing story too. I was up to Hamilton Island, running the place up there, and we had Hamilton Island Race Week with all the best sailors in the country, and a lot of overseas entrants as well. And Finsko came up and stayed with us, and at the time we sponsored Brindabella, which is this 100-foot maxi yacht, a very powerful boat, weighed over 30 tonnes. The loads were incredible on the sheets. That's the ropes, actually, if you like, to control the sails. And I said, "Finsko, do you want to go on Brindabella?" He said, "Oh, that'd be great." So I organised it with George Snow, a good friend of ours, the owner of Brindabella, and on one particular race day we strapped Finsko at the stern of the boat on Brindabella, and off it went. It was pretty breezy that day. It was blowing 20 odd knots, and I think you had a pretty good day, didn't you? I could see the boat tearing away. There's a lot of action, of course, on big boats with sail changes and tacking and all that sort of stuff. And here's Finsko at the very back of the boat, hanging on for dear life under the... He was, and he had a great time. I was really pleased to hear, Nick, you mentioned Lisa, because that's something that's very much in our memory too, with the support that Lisa has been as your partner for all these years, and of course the support you get from your kids, Timothy and Karina, who are great. It's great to see you here. You have a generous spirit. You've always given so much to others, Finsko. And a related story again to sailing. I did a Sydney Hobart in my own yacht in 2003. And on the way back, we had to seek shelter at the top northeast corner of Tasmania at Ediston Point because it was blowing like bloody crazy. And Roger Badham, a fellow by the name called Clouds, was the weather forecaster, and said, "Wayne, stay there, stay there." So we stayed for 2, 3, 4 days. And I hadn't planned on this. So we're running out of water, running out of food, and to keep the boat going fast, we'd already taken all the stuff off. Didn't even have a fishing line on the boat to catch fish. And we stuck there. Eventually, Adam said, "Okay, you can take off now." So early one morning, we took off and we got to Eden. And I thought, "Oh, Finsko lives near there. He's in Merimbula. I'll ring Finsko, we can catch up with him." So I rang Finsko, and he came down as we came into Eden, the wharf. He came down with a big cheese platter. And it was just a heavenly meal for us after being starved for a few days in the middle of bloody nowhere. That night, he put us up, 4 of us, with a next door neighbour, I think. 2 people stayed next door. We had a hot shower, a warm bed, after having a steak dinner at a local restaurant. And it was a wonderful night. And that was Finsko and Lisa, who were so generous, and I'll never forget that.
Sadly, I met Ron, Finsko, Finneran, and there's probably another 28 athletes you could call Finsko, but about 50 years ago. And looking back on it, do you know, in NASDAQ, we had orange parkas, exactly the same colour as the SES today. If I was an employee today, and I saw Ron turning up to work on an icy morning with his 2 skis, parallel skis, with leather straps joining them together, coming down middle slopes, I just wondered how I was going to replace him. He just slid all the way down to the bottom of the NASDAQ course. NASDAQ was really big in those days. One day on Thursday, I can remember we did 1,020 entrants. And there's 3 of us. There's Ready, Set, Go, Gary Godova. Then there was the chief of race, the timer, the scriber, in charge of presentations, Ron Finneran. And it was just me setting the course and resetting the course. But we had to go to a presentation. The Thursday presentations in Keller were unbelievable. We tried to give everyone a medal. And very early on we realised the longer we kept the people, the more people who turned up to the presentation. We drank for free. Really easy. So, nearly everyone, apart from people who got a smoothie medal, got a bronze medal. Because I'd come back to get the silver and the golden medal. But Ron did everything. But Ron did actually work for KT in numerous positions. Accounts payable, I think, once. Ron didn't really like that. But he did work for Leonard Earhart and Arnold Conrad for many years doing their mail for them. He used to write the letters for them. That's right, isn't it?
Oh, every now and again.
But in closing, I think I've never seen anyone so in closing, Ron's determination and persistence as a ski area general manager. You know, Ron would come and see you in November, February, May, and we all time, and all the ski area managers used to talk to each other all the time. So he's coming back. What does he want this year? And it went on and on. And his persistence has only been passed by one Australian snow sports entity, Jeff Hankey, in his determination to get the best, very best out of the sport for adaptive and disabled skiers. And Ron has built an unbelievable generation that have given, it's not just the elite, we always talk about the elite people, but the participation in participating in Falls Creek, Buller, Hoffman, all the resorts, and it's been fantastic. And due to Ron's persistence, I went through my trinkets at home, and I'd like to donate a couple of things to the Thredbo Alpine Museum for Errol and Randy to accept, and because his efforts were truly world class. And I'd like to give a unpresented World Cup 1989 medal from the Thredbo Olympics on behalf of Ron, because Ron's efforts have been really world class, and so I'd like to hand this medal out. This was an unpresented medal because those 2 events were cancelled at the '89 World Cup, and in my other pocket I've really got a lot of trinkets at home. Cremation medal for, and I'm doing, I did talk to Stuart before, and we're doing that. I'm not too sure who actually owns those medals, you know. It could be FIS, Snow Australia, KT, or somebody's held them for the last 20 years. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
I have to get below it. I have to look up. I have to look up there. That's the way it should be.
I won't bore you very much, but a lot of people talked about Finsko's achievements and that, but one of his main achievements was after a big day on the mountain, we'd end up in the bistro, and his achievement was to get home to where he lived each night. So, being part of his friendship base, he would eye you off at around about 10 o'clock when it was apparent that it was going to be difficult to get home. So he conscripted a couple of us to get him home, and I distinctly remember one night, myself and one other person helping Ron. We set sail, left the bistro, went past Black Bear, refused to go in for that one drink as he used to, kept walking with Ron in between us. We get up this towards Thredbo and that, Ron says, "I've moved house." "What do you mean you freaking moved house?" He said, "I'm living at the other end of the village now." On that note, we did get him home Friday.
Thank you, everyone.
Am I allowed to?
You are allowed.
Okay, settle down. I've got 3 hours.
Just give it. You've got to hold it up.
Yeah, I'll hold it right up to my face, swallow it. Be that it may, the return speeches are without. What a slack mode of rubbish I got from these guys. There was no guts in it whatsoever.
Try to be nice to a guy.
It's totally quite. Do you all guys remember Snowman Lodge, Tuploff there, the Sushes Hill leading down to the hotel? Working for Arnold Conrad, you will be there on time. You will be. If you're not, we'll talk about, we'll sack you, but we'll reemploy you at the end of the day. But I just can't believe it. What was I talking about? So got to the hill, and this was early in the morning. You had to leave where we were at 7 o'clock and slide down the hill and start work. But going down the hill on a wet and frozen day, we had 3 Fleet's employees staying at Snowman's Lodge, looking down on Sussex Hill. One was Martin Kershaw, the other one was Ronnie Duncan. I don't know whether Ron's here or not. What a pity. And who was the third person? Anyway, they would all have bets on what part of Sussex Hill would fall. Now this is the sort of homely friendship that I got here. Look, let's not, we've speeched ourselves out tonight. For those that have talked, thank you very much indeed, but cut it by a third again next time and then a third. But thank you very much indeed, each and every one of you. It's been a magnificent time in Thredbo over all these many years, and it's without that support, and that needs to be brought up, that it was the village that grabbed hold of me back in 1975 and said, Ron, if you want to learn how to ski, we'll help you. We'll get you there. And that's exactly what each and every one of the people involved over the years have done so, and including you guys tonight. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
who's spoken just before, I think I'll only take 20 minutes at a time. And just to involve everyone who's been mentioned tonight in a speech by everyone who stood up here, Ron, I'd just like to say that Randy was my first ski instructor in the late 1970s. So, yeah, Randy, because he had to be mentioned in every speech. One of my fondest memories was Randy holding me above his head as a 9-year-old in the Calabar to get, yeah, I know that sounded a bit rough actually, no, that was to be presented with a bronze NASTAR medal. So the world circle comes around and goes back. Graham Morris was my instructor to get my disabled qualification in my first year in Thredbo Snow Sports in 1994. Your legacy will live on forever in this resort. I think everyone in this room would agree if we can contribute 1/10 of what you have to society, to snow sports, to Thredbo and to everything that you've done, the world will be a much better place. So very, very proud to be